Hi, my name is Sarah Dauncey. I'm an Associate Professor in the School of Sociology and Social Policy at the University of Nottingham. I'm going to talk a bit about getting your research ready for publication. I'm currently the co-editor of the Journal of the British Association for Chinese Studies, and a lot of the submissions we've been getting recently are from early career researchers, people who are in the last year of their PhD, say, or people who have just made that progression into a postdoc or into their first position and are trying to get some publications under their belt. Obviously, writing for a journal is very, very different from writing your PhD. So most of the common mistakes, should I say mistakes, or problems that we see are people making that transition from writing a chapter for their PhD into something that's ready for publication. So that although the broader aims are really quite similar, a lot of the processes and actually the way you frame a lot of what you write is quite different. So for example, what we see often when people submit their work and their very sort of early career is that they're just taking essentially the chapter from their PhD and submitting it. Now, this chapter may be fantastic in terms of the way it fits into their overarching thesis, but what people often forget is that when you're writing a chapter, there's an awful lot of information that comes before that individual chapter that makes it unable to stand alone as a journal article. So the first thing I'd really ask people to think about when they're submitting their work for a journal is to think about, does this piece of writing stand alone? Does it do what you think it does without all that background information that comes when you've got the full PhD behind it? In some instances, the remedy is really quite simple. It's taking a page, a couple of pages, just to make sure that you're covering some of that background and that contextualization. Sometimes it's thinking about terms that you're using, making sure that they're well defined in advance. In other places, it's giving a little bit more of a section on theory or method that you've used, just to make sure that the reader, when they approach the reader, obviously one of the reviewers that's going to be looking at it, knows exactly where you're coming from. They're not having to backfill all that information themselves. That really frustrates reviewers, because what they want to see is a piece that's ready for publication in front of them, and if it's not meeting those very simple criteria, they say that you'll set out your objectives and they're all contained within that particular piece, then they will be frustrated, and that's one of the major reasons why the papers are rejected. The second thing is that once you've got your piece ready and you think you've done all of this, is just to make sure it's been read by somebody else who is a regular reader of research pieces, because oftentimes you're so immersed in the subject, you think actually I understand what's going on. Towards the end of the paper that you're submitting, that the narrative might get lost, your argument might get lost. Get somebody who's done this and has done this a lot. It could be one person, two person, three people. Just get them to read it over and over again, and take that feedback and integrate it, because the last thing you want to have is that feedback saying, well, actually your argument got lost and we got confused. If you can sort it out before you submit it, that would be brilliant.